Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar this evening. It's part of our new series of webinars called In Conversation, and tonight we're in conversation with Maisie. Maisie is one of Streamline's patients, and we're going to run through a couple of quick Q&As. We're going to record the session, so if you don't manage to hop on today, we can always send it to you afterwards so you can check that out. But yeah, you're probably aware of who I am if you've watched these before. I'm Mike Holder. I am one of the patient support coordinators here at Streamline, and I help you deal from initial inquiry all the way through to surgery. So Maisie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, let everybody know what you've had done, how long it's been, and just your general journey to now, really.
Thanks, Mike. Hi everyone. So I'm Maisie, and I had a loop bypass. Some people might know it as the mini bypass last July, so July 2021. Yeah, and it's gone really, really well. So yeah, it's been a mad sort of 16 months, but yeah, it doesn't quite feel like that.
Yeah, it does. It's a whirlwind, and I can already see, because I know we met up in the summer to do some shots and some promo, and you do look different again. So have you lost much more since then?
I have, yeah. I've lost a couple of stones since then, but in total I've lost 15 stone 7, so 15 and a half stone. Wow. So you literally of dropping off you. So it literally has dropped you, hasn't it? So yeah, so we're just going to talk about your journey. It's just informal, in conversation. That's why I'm sat in front of the fire. You're sat in your dining room, I think you are, and we'll just have a chill chat about everything. So obviously, with surgery, we'll start with, you know, what got you into surgery. You know, what was your tipping point? What was that moment where you thought, I've got to do this? You know, everything else has maybe run its course. What was the moment you thought surgery is for me? I think for me it was a bit of a cumulative effect. So it all kind of really started during lockdown, and I think during lockdown, like everyone, stuck in the house, I was eating and putting on weight as I was doing it, drinking quite a lot as well, and yeah, the weight was just piling on, and it sounds really silly, but I was doing a silly like video with my sister, and we watched it back, and then I realized that was me. Right. And I thought, oh my God, that's actually me. That's what I look like. And because I'd sort of, I think when you take photos, you might take selfies, or, you know, you try and get like the right angle. So I'd not seen a full length picture of me because I'd never looked in the mirror. So I was like, oh, and it really hit me. And I thought, you know, I knew that I was becoming unhealthily overweight. You know, I was morbidly obese. It's not really a term that I like personally. I think it's a bit clinical, and I think it negates, you know, like a lot of what might lead someone to get to that point. But you know, for me, it was that moment, that sudden realization of that is the point that I've let myself get to. And I think, you know, it was, weight loss surgery wasn't really ever something I'd kind of considered, and I sort of in desperation turned to Google, you know, and you do it's like how to lose weight long term, and weight loss surgery came up as an option. You know, I've done kind of diets and what have you in the past, but and then that kind of led to almost obsessively Googling, you know, what is weight loss surgery, what is it about, and then I eventually found Streamline.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, it is that desperation point. I don't think anybody gets to the point of, you know, having surgery or thinking about surgery without having that point of despair. And it's almost, what do I do? Where do I go? And who can help? So, you know, obviously you are our patient at Streamline. We're very grateful you come to ourselves. We love look at seeing your journey. But, you know, what factors were there that, you know, made you choose us as a provider, and what were you looking for when you were looking for a provider?
I think for me the main thing was knowing that I was, well, I mean, for me, I wanted to stay in the UK. That was you know, because obviously I know that people do go abroad, and, you know, all power to people if that's the decision that people have to make. You know, I know that you did a live last week.
Last week.
I was discussing that. But, you know, I knew I wanted to stay here. I knew I wanted reputable surgeons. I knew that I wanted decent aftercare. For me, the aftercare was the most important thing, because I thought, you know, there's a reason that everything else hasn't worked up until now. And I knew that I needed that support from people that actually, firstly, could empathise and kind of understand what I was going through, but also who knew their stuff. And that's just been my experience, really. So I think that's been a hugely important thing for me.
Yeah, 100%. And like you say, you know, everyone that does come to Streamline as well, the majority of people in our support team, in the inquiries team, have all had surgery as well. So we know, you know, we know what you think, we know what you're going through.
Yeah.
And, you know, just exactly what you said before, I mean, it still happens now. Which angle do I get to make this chin look smaller? I'm still looking a different way to get a selfie. So
yeah.
no, I completely get that. But, you know, advice for anyone starting out on surgery, what is it that you would say to look out for? You know, if they're thinking about it, you know, is it a point that you have to exhaust all your other options, or is it something that you would have wanted to do sooner?
I always wish I always say my kind of only regret, really, and I don't know if this might be a question, but, you know, my only regret was not doing it sooner. I just turned 28. I was 28 in 3 days when I had my surgery. It's just after my birthday. And I thought, you know, I could get to 30 and then 40. And if it continues on this trajectory, then I'm going to end up seriously poorly. But, you know, it was a case of, I think for anyone, do your research, but also reach out to people that have had a bariatric procedure.
Yeah.
I was lucky in that I knew someone who had a bypass through Streamline previously. And that was, you know, I'd already kind of researched Streamline, but then kind of knowing someone who'd gone with Streamline, I think, you know, helped. But yeah, I think, you know, finding the right resources. So there's so many kind of support groups that I, you know, I'm still part of, but I used kind of really religiously in the early kind of researching, you know, Facebook, Instagram, that sort of thing. Because I think it's really, really important to get people's perspectives. That's why I say, you know, my inbox is always open to anyone who's kind of going, oh, you know, is it going to be the right thing for me?
Yeah, no, and I was going to say that as well, because I know you do share your journey online on Instagram. And quite often Streamline is tagged as somebody in your photos. So I was going to say, you know, if someone was, you know, had nobody around that had weight loss surgery and they just wanted a frank conversation, is that something you're open to?
Absolutely. Anyone can message me anytime. I'm a teacher, so I can't guarantee that I'll message, you know, I'll be able to message back straight away. But you know, I can't just kind of stop my English lesson and, you know, yeah, I'll always reply, because I know exactly how those people are feeling, and I know exactly, you know, that kind of desperate thirst for knowledge and reassurance that actually it's going to be okay, because it's a really scary thing. And I think people underestimate quite how much of a daunting prospect it is, you know. So I think if I do anything to make people feel a little bit more reassured, or just talk to people, I think, you know, I absolutely will.
Yeah, I totally agree. I speak to so many people. I mean, it's two ends of the spectrum, really. Yes, you are going through a procedure. It's changing the way that things work within your body. Absolutely. Yeah. But on the other hand, it is also a safe procedure. So it's really good to have that sort of double-sided view where, yes, you need to be prepared, but almost I come out of my surgery, I don't know about you, thinking, oh God, that wasn't actually as big of a deal as I thought. You know,
I absolutely agree. So the day of my surgery, I cried the whole way down to theatre. I was properly convinced that something awful was going to happen. And the loveliest nurse just took my hand and said, these surgeons know exactly what they're doing. They're experts. They do so many surgeries a day, so many surgeries a year, you know, and that reassured me. But, you know, I think when you are putting yourself through that, it is scary, you know, particularly when you are overweight. There are risks associated with, you know, general anesthesia and what have you. And, you know, knowing that people are okay, but just like you know, I kind of woke up, I don't know if it was the painkillers, but I just kind of went, oh, okay, that's done. You know, it wasn't like I didn't immediately feel like I'd sort of, you know, ruined my life or anything, you know. Yeah. So I think that's the fear as well. I think people think they're going to wake up with instant regret.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I thought I'd wake up and I knew that they were going to, you know, give me a sip of water to make sure I was okay and get me on fluids as soon as possible. I thought that as soon as I took that first sip, I was terrified. I thought, I'm going to feel every part of it. I'm going to feel it moving and it's just not. And I think it's really good to hear that from a patient, just to be like, listen, it is a big thing, but don't be too daunted. I think there is an element of scaremongering within ourselves. I think it's natural, especially when you're apprehensive. And yeah, I completely agree with what you just said. So obviously, I
was just going to say, I had my surgery on the hottest day of the year. So when I was allowed water, I was like, oh my God, please just give me water.
Yeah, you just dabbing your mouth previously with a wet rag. So yeah, no, I get that. But obviously, I know how the process works, and I speak to people all the time. But from your point of view, how did you find the whole process from start to sort of surgery?
Amazing, really, really supportive. So I had contacted, in all transparency, a couple of companies, and I always felt a bit like a number. I just felt like I was sort of being churned through that sort of system, and okay, well, give us the money and then we'll do it. And that's kind of how I felt. But I remember having a conversation with one of the patient coordinators, and having a chat, and I was on the phone for a good half an hour, and I thought, oh my goodness, people are really taking the time here to make sure that I'm okay and that I know what's going to happen next. And then I had a consultation with my surgeon in the January. And because, as I said, because I'm a teacher, I knew that I wanted it over the summer holidays, but there was no pressure. It was like, okay, we can get you booked in. This is what we do. And every single step of the process was explained, from, consultation, which I found really, really valuable. I was on a Zoom call for a sort of a good hour with my surgeon, kind of going through everything, because I'd gone in with the idea that I was definite, I wanted a sleeve. That was exactly what I wanted. That was what was going to happen. I wasn't going to change my mind. By the end, I was having a mini gastric bypass. So, it was a really, really useful thing to have. But yeah, kind of really amazing communication, and that's something that's kind of just continued to the day of my surgery and beyond. I can always drop an email or phone up, and there's someone there at the end of the phone or the computer.
No, absolutely, and I can vouch for that as well. That's exactly what the support, and that's what you get, in my opinion anyway, with staying with a provider that's well renowned in the UK. That is the big difference, I think, anyway. But like you were just saying there as well, in terms of your mindset was sleeve, and then you come out thinking, I'm going to have a loop bypass. I'm going to have a mini bypass. How important do you think it is because I'll be open and honest. I think I was recommended, I had mine through the NHS. I was told you should go for a bypass, the gold standard. And now, 4 years down the line, I really wish that I wasn't so terrified, and I really wish I'd had this experience. So I really wish I'd gone for a mini gastric bypass. I really do. Really wish I would have taken the advice. But how important do you think it is to make sure that you have a consultation, and probably more than one if you're not completely sure, to make sure you're getting the right surgery?
Absolutely crucial. Absolutely crucial. And I honestly don't think I'd be sitting here over 15 stone lighter if I hadn't had that initial consultation. Because I think, with all of the research, it is a minefield, and, certain people, very well-intentioned people go, oh, well, my friend had the sleeve, for example, or my friend had the band, or my friend had this, or my friend had that. And actually, it's got to be about you. It's got to be about what's right for you. So I was in a position where I was, an awful lot heavier than I am now. I was in a position where I had a sweet tooth. I really drastically needed to change, kind of the way I was eating, but also, because I had a lot of weight to lose. That was the reason that the mini bypass was recommended for me. And I'd never heard of a mini bypass. I just sort of knew about the Roux-en-Y. So, so I'd never even heard of the mini. And then, by the end of that consultation, my surgeon had explained everything to me.
And that's it. Just have your consultation, isn't it, and get the right procedure. I think I am probably, whilst I'm not unsuccessful, I've lost a very, very big amount of weight. I still got a little bit of way to go, and now I'm finding it probably more difficult, and I probably would have achieved it as well. So I think you're testament to the fact that it's really important to have your consultations and really listen to what you're being told. Don't let fear get in the way of what you are advised, basically. So
yeah, because you're putting your life and your, you know, the rest of your life in the hands of experts, and
yeah,
it makes sense to listen to them.
it does. So I am hindsight, and you are doing the right thing. So I think that we should
You've done
listen to you.
amazingly. Done amazingly.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look. So we've got 2 questions that should come in as we've been covering that. So let's have a look. Is the mini the same as a gastric bypass? So, I mean, I can answer this as well as you. They're just different mechanisms. They are both a gastric bypass. One has a single cut and rejoin and the other doesn't. So if you want more information on the medical side, go to a surgeon, have your free consultation. They'll explain everything about it. But yeah, a mini gastric bypass or a loop gastric bypass is a gastric bypass. It's just a different way of doing it. So that's fine. And this one is for you, Maisie. What changed your mind about the sleeve in the consultation?
My surgeon's advice.
Yeah.
And I was really honest, and I said, you know, if this was someone that, you know, if I was someone that you knew personally, and I was someone, you know, like, you know, a relative, I think I said, what would you be recommending for me? And he said the mini bypass. He said, you know, it's the evidence is there, the science is there. You know, for me personally, he said a sleeve might work really, really well for someone else. He said, but for me and my circumstances, and I think that's why, you know, as we said, the consultation is so important, because it is tailored to you. You know, the surgeons really do take a lot of time to find out about who you are as a person, and find out about like any health history, any kind of medical conditions you might have. You know, I felt like, you know, my surgeon knew my life story by the time I finished my consultation. So yeah, absolutely.
And that's what your consultation should be, really. You know, it's changing your life, so they need to know about your whole life, and that's, you know, ideal. So you've done exactly what I think is, you know, brilliant. Now we've got a couple of questions here about life after your bypass, and you know, how it's been. So what's been the most difficult thing for you to get used to since having the mini bypass?
I think the knowledge that it's just as much of a mental and emotional journey as a physical one, and actually that your mind and your body, you know, because you're losing weight so rapidly. Like I remember the first, I weigh in weekly because it keeps me sane. You know, for other people that, you know, it's just what works for me. And I remember the first week of since I'd lost a stone up the week after my operation. And, you know, I think because I was losing weight so rapidly, my mind wasn't catching up. So I remember getting about 3 months post-op and buying the same size clothes that I was wearing before, and them just falling off me. But it just wasn't quite connecting. You know, I'd look in the mirror and I could see if, well, actually, I really struggled to see a physical difference, if I'm being really honest. I could see it objectively in terms of a photo, but actually looking in the mirror. So yeah, I think body dysmorphia and, you know, body image, it is, you know, can be tricky, no matter how, you know, how you lose weight. But again, that was something that I was able to discuss with kind of various people at Streamline. So that was really, really helpful. And also, one thing I found quite tricky was kind of getting used to knowing what I could eat and drink and kind of tolerate in the first couple of months, because it is really just trial and error, isn't it? You know,
100%.
I mean, I completely found puree. You know, I'll be really honest, puree was miserable. You know, I think I'm glad I did it, and I'm really glad I did it, because obviously, you know, you have to, because your body's healing and, you know, you can't push it. And I was, you know, absolutely following the advice to the T. I remember kind of just blending everything and thinking, oh, it's a tiny amount in the bowl, I'll polish it off, get 2 spoonfuls in, and I was full. But yeah, I think those kind of couple of things were the things that I found tricky.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a fish fiend. I love a bit of fish, and putting tuna in the blender just didn't feel right. But you know what? No. I did it. We've all
did you? I didn't ever try blended tuna.
Don't do it. It's not fun. Stick to what you know. You know, ground beef is fine in the blender.
I lived off it for 4 weeks.
So yeah, and in terms of, obviously, you're a massive success. What are your tips for being successful?
Follow the advice. You know, you get so much information pre-op, And I think that can be quite overwhelming. So what I did was I took some time to actually, because I'm a bit geeky, I took some time to sit and write notes and kind of highlight the important things, and ask for help, you know, because I think sometimes, particularly in those first couple of months, you're feeling quite vulnerable. You've just had a major operation. You're not eating normally. You're tired. Like that was the main thing. I just remember feeling so tired. And no question is a silly question in those, particularly in those early days. You know, I think asking for help, following up with your aftercare, your dietitian phone calls, have been really crucial. I'd say those are the most important things.
And I totally agree. There is no stupid question.
No.
Someone said to me, can I go, I had a call a few weeks ago and they said, I feel so stupid, but can I go and swim at 2 weeks? And they were going to go and swim and they just thought, and they said, I just thought I'd give it a call. I know it's a silly question. I probably can. And we were like, probably not. No, don't do it.
No.
And they're like, oh God, okay, then maybe not. So no question is a stupid question, because you never know what you're doing right or wrong. So always ask. And like I said, the support's here. So there's no reason not to. Now there we go, get back to you. So quick question whilst we were just talking then is, have you had any negative reactions from people in general, or people looking down on you because you've chose to go down the surgical route?
I've only had one negative conversation. I was told that I'd cheated. That old chestnut.
Yeah.
That person's no longer in my life.
I don't blame you.
They said, oh, well, you've obviously, you've done well, but, don't you feel like you're just a bit of a cheat?
No.
No, I don't. Actually. No, I do not. And I think my response was, well, when you have your inside surgically rerouted and change the way that you eat and drink and, whatever for life, then we'll come back and have that conversation.
Yeah,
no, so, that was the only negative reaction I've had. Everyone generally has been amazing and really supportive. I'm very lucky.
And I can vouch for it. I think, especially people around you, they get to a point where it's like, well, you need this. I said, I had so many people come to me before I'd even considered surgery. Like, you need it. We know you've tried everything else. We know that you've, battled and battled and battled. Yeah. The people that really bothered and gave me the negative feedback anyway were people that really didn't even matter. So I mean, that question is definitely a valid question. Definitely, if you're thinking about it, do what's right for you, not what's right for everybody else, because it's our own lives. No one else is going to do it for us. So another question, do you think it's possible without anyone at home after I'm in shared housing? So I don't know about you, but I came home with a family full. So you know what, I don't know about you, but I probably think it would be easier if, especially after the first week, I was on my own.
Oh, really?
Because I will be honest, I was so angry about people cooking, about enjoying something that I wasn't enjoying. I was like, how dare you do that without me? And they're like, well, you've made this choice. Yeah. So for me, I probably would have found it easier if I didn't. But I don't know about you, Maisie. What do you think?
No, I was really glad to be at home. I mean, I lived with my parents at the time, and my mum in particular was incredible. So she'd be there, making like the main meal of, I don't know, cottage pie, and then like a hand blender, like just blending my cottage pie up for me, And for me, it was just the emotional side of things, because because COVID was a factor, and I was advised to self-isolate for a couple of weeks after my operations, obviously, straight after a major surgery. I mean, getting COVID at any time is not ideal, but certainly not at that time. So I sort of didn't really see anyone apart from my family up until a couple of weeks post-op. So no, I was just very lucky that I had my family around me, I think, for me personally.
No, I think it really does depend, if you're used to being alone, you're not alone so much, but living alone, absolutely. You can very much get back to a routine that's almost close to normal. You're just adapting things, aren't you, really?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I would 100%
kind of up and about,
and I'd say if that's something that the person's asked the question is, worried about. I don't think that they needn't worry, because they've always got
No.
the support at the end of the phone from us. And, you know, you can sort of, after the first week or two, you're getting back to sort of
Pretty
basically
much
normal.
yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And that's another question we've had is, you know, how soon can you get back to your normal routine? Did you have to have months off work? Obviously, you did it in the summer holidays, but how did you feel, you know, immediately after your surgery in the first couple of weeks?
I was tired, but I think that's quite normal. You know, you've just had a major op. But I was off all painkillers, I think, 4 days post-op. So I was sent home with liquid paracetamol, and I was off that. I wasn't in a huge amount of pain. You know, I was kind of doing my kind of normal, kind of getting out and about, sort of maybe 5 days, 6 days post-op. I mean, I remember going around Sainsbury's and kind of getting halfway around and saying to my mum, "Oh, I'm really tired." But, you know, I think that's just to be expected. You know, you just had an operation. But I was kind of doing my normal day-to-day. And I think, you know, I think it also depends what sort of work you do. I mean, as I said, I'm a teacher, and I was back in September, and I was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I think if you did a more physical job, probably, maybe, I don't know. I guess as well, that's something that you'd need to speak to your surgeon about if you did more.
It is. And obviously it does make a difference what sort of job, but I'd say anyone that has, I think the pandemic in some ways for people looking into this surgery has almost been a bit of a blessing, because you know, I know of people that we recommend the 2 weeks off work. We recommend it whatever job you do, 2 weeks off, maybe more if you've got a strenuous job. But people go, "But Mike, I feel fine, and I want to get back into a routine." So they can do that. So it really does depend on each person, and it is individualized.
It really
so
is,
just moving on to, I know I'm going to do two in one here, because you mentioned your energy levels. I've got a question about energy levels. How are they since surgery? And also, how long have you gained confidence, and how long did it take for you to start noticing that change?
So in terms of energy levels, massively have increased. I mean, I actually had a surgery on my foot about 6 weeks ago, which is something that weight loss surgery has enabled me to be able to do. So I've not been to the gym in 6 weeks because I'm currently on one leg. But before that, you know, I was up to running nearly 4K at the gym. I was doing sort of the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending on the week. And I never ever exercised before. I could barely walk 5 minutes. You know, the fact that I could run that amount was, you know, that time last year it wouldn't have happened. And just, you know, I mean, I've never been a morning person, but just generally, you know, getting up and going and, you know, and what have you, it's been like night and day really in terms of energy levels, because that's the thing with when you're carrying a lot of weight. I think, you know, that is one thing that I just remember, just being so tired all of the time and just so drained, you know, because obviously you're carrying around
another person.
You know,
literally. Go around your day-to-day life. I always think people go around your day-to-day life and imagine that you're just getting up from the sofa, you're walking to your kitchen, but all that time somebody is literally on your back. And that is what it is. So, you know, it is absolutely normal to be, for people that come to us to say, "I'm sluggish, I'm tired." And one of, you know, even just, you know, a few weeks after they go, "I am so much more sprightly. I feel amazing." But yeah, and just touching on this, you know, confidence thing, because obviously you say it takes a while for your head and your head to catch up with your body, which I get it. Do you think it took a while for your confidence to sort of have a boost, or?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And I remember the pinpoint moment when I sort of realized that things were changing and that, you know, my physical appearance was changing. I was in a changing room about 3 months, maybe 4 months post-op, and I could fit into a whole outfit that was sort of 3 sizes smaller than pre-op. And actually that was the moment that kind of clicked, and I thought, oh my goodness, you know, my confidence has grown since then, absolutely. So I mean, I'm never going to be the most confident person, but it has.
You know, I think you carry the old person with you regardless. I think you always have that person. It's almost like imposter syndrome, you know.
Absolutely.
You're not good enough, you don't feel, you know, that you're worthy or valued, and nobody else thinks that. It's just in your own mind.
Just in your own head, absolutely.
But it is that thing, is every milestone and victory that you get, you think, Oh, wow. Yeah, this is what it feels like I hate to use the term, but normal.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
you go to, I don't know about you, but my turning point as well was literally the same. Going out, we'd booked a camping trip away with friends, totally forgot to bring any sort of jumper, hoodie. And even though it was the middle of summer, I didn't realize how cold the British summer was once we were outside. And I was like, I am freezing. And I just popped out to the local supermarket, which was Tesco Express, Tesco Extra, sorry. And I was like, oh God, they're never going to fit me in here. I've never fit into a hoodie from any supermarket. And I actually found myself going from the largest size down and then down again. And I was like,
such a
oh,
nice feeling.
yeah, that is the best feeling. Just moving on to the next question then, it ties us really nicely into what is your biggest non-scale victory?
Buying my wedding dress in a size 14. That was my biggest victory.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing.
Going from a size 30 to 32. I remember putting it on and I was like, I've got to be quite quiet because my fiance's in the background. But I remember, trying it on and sort of saying, oh, so is this like a size 20? And she went, no, it's a size 14. And I was like, sorry, what? I'm not a size 14. And she went, well, clearly you are.
Yeah. And did you have the same, were you looking at dresses previously before your surgery, before your surgery? No, okay. But yeah, so that's nice to sort of go and somebody just look at you and think, yeah, you're that size. You get it.
If I'm really honest, though, like talking about that, it's not that I wouldn't have got married, but I wouldn't have worn a wedding dress before.
Right.
I really got into something, because that was only something I could ever dream of. That was something that I would never be able to fit into. So why even think about it? So the fact that I've got one, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that biggest non-scale victory, getting into the wedding dress of your dreams. I think that's a pretty big one up there, isn't it? 100%. I don't know about you. Have you been abroad at all yet after surgery?
Yeah.
How did you find it? Different experience or?
I wore a bikini for the first time in my life. And I was like, you know what? Loose skin and all. I don't care. All these Greek people can see my loose skin. It doesn't bother me. I felt great. I felt amazing.
Yeah. No, I've never ever taken my top off anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find the skimpiest thing and I was almost getting shamed. People like looking like, no, Mike, you don't need to wear that. And I was like, yes, I do. But no. So yeah, obviously there's so much that is meant for your life. What has it enabled you to do with your life that you didn't do before? Have you got different plans, different sort of outlook of life, different sort of, has it opened your eyes to think life is so much broader than it was? And what has it done for you?
Absolutely. I think, the thought of, because another one of my non-scale victories that was up there was not having to use a seatbelt extender on the plane. Yeah. And I remember the last flight I got on was obviously before COVID. And like the shame of having to say to the flight attendant, I'm really sorry, but I need a seatbelt extender. And I don't know if you've ever flown with a certain airline that give you a bright orange seatbelt extender. And it was like, could you make this any more obvious? So that was, that was amazing. And then, kind of, I'm losing my train of thought, but yeah. So go on, can you ask me that question again? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. No, it's just about, what has weight loss meant that you would do now?
So kind of travel, wedding, hopefully children at some point, all of those things that it's opened those doors, feeling more confident at work and kind of thinking that I can go for, perhaps career progression. So yeah, it's done a huge amount. And I think, when we talk about confidence, that's, obviously fed into that, definitely.
And I do think it's all about that, really. It's having dreams and hopes and ambitions for yourself that weren't there before. Absolutely. And it's, I never ever thought I was stuck in a job that I hated. Yeah. And thinking I could do everything else. And I thought that the 9 to 5 was everybody's route, or you had to fit into a certain box. And now my life, 4 years after, I've gone from working 70-hour weeks to having completely different life and actually experiencing a bit of life. So yeah, it is mad. I mean, how have you found the surgery socially, and specifically food and going out and having a social life?
I'm now the queen of dinner.
Everybody
Can I
says
take
that.
it home? I mean, I remember the first time I asked, you know, can I take the rest of this home? I remember feeling really embarrassed. I have no shame now, at all. Or asking for the kids menu, although I don't tend to ask for the kids menu because the kids menu,
it's so bad. I don't know about
so
you.
bad.
I asked for the kids menu in one restaurant, and it was a big chain restaurant. And I was like, why is it so bad?
So
I was like,
bad.
why haven't kids got, you know, a better range of choice just in a smaller version? She's like, that's it. That's me. And I thought, wow,
Like,
okay.
I'm 29 years old. I don't want to eat chicken nuggets.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, no. But no, I mean, I personally made this, but I didn't ever really make a decision to stop drinking. It kind of just happened because obviously after the surgery, you are advised not to drink for is it, I think it's 6 months, I think. I can't actually remember because it's been so long since I've actually had a drink. But that's just something that doesn't really faze me anymore. You know, I've kind of done my clubbing days and got that out of my system. I think that's part of it. But you know, I don't feel the need to go out and have a drink. I can still have fun because now I actually feel like I want to go out and I want to socialise and I want to go out and have a giggle. Whereas before I was almost, okay, I'll have a few drinks because that makes me feel more confident about going out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And the one thing I say to people that ask this question all the time is about, you know, going out and having a social life. You know, a lot of what's brought them to surgery is the fact that they don't have a social life.
Yeah.
And they go to me, well, how's it going to change my social life? I said, you're going to have one. You know, you're not sitting in the house and doing nothing and hiding yourself away. And I always say to people, don't romanticize the fact that you think you've got such a fantastic social life now, because once you have the surgery, you really will realize you haven't got one. And that's what I always say, you know, food is such a comforter. Food is, you know, a comfort blanket. And I think people often mistake a social life as eating, and it's really not. There's so much more. So that's what I always say to people, you know, I never would have gone and done an extreme zip wire or this, that, the other, or gone and done something I knew I couldn't do because of my weight. But now that is social life. So just broadening horizons. It's so it's so completely different.
New things. Yeah, absolutely. Doing things that you would never, as you say, never would have even dreamed of doing before. Yeah, I think it gives you, as you said, it gives you a different type of social life, doesn't it? And you know, like even talking about food, like, you know, if you're going out for dinner, I'm not kind of sat there obsessively looking at the menu thinking, oh, what can I eat? What can I eat? What can I eat? It's more now I'm focused on the conversations I'm having and the people that I'm with.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's a really lovely thing to be, you know, it feels quite empowering, I think.
And I don't know about you, I always used to look at what had the biggest portion, and I would look at people's plates coming out before I even made a decision and thought, right, that's got a lot of food on, that's got a lot of food, I'm going to have that, rather than, and often it's just fried food, whereas now I'll order a fillet of something and think, you know what, it's what I want to eat. It's not just the amount. So I completely get that.
I think it does change your attitude towards what you eat as well, doesn't it? You know, because you know that obviously if you're limited to what you can eat, you want to really enjoy what you're going to eat. So I have no qualms about going out and ordering a fillet steak if that's what I fancy. And I'll take the rest home and I'll have it probably for my lunch or my dinner the next day. But actually I spoil my tummy now. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to enjoy what I'm eating.
And do you have any limitations on food, or is it, you know, because I know we're both pretty far out when you think of surgery. I don't have any limitations. It's just sort of what you want in smaller quantities. What do you know, how have you found that?
I think I am getting to that point. There's still a couple of things that just don't sit very well or don't agree with me. So I'm not amazing with pasta. I can't really eat normal pasta anymore, so I would always have gluten-free now because that just seems to go down a bit better for some reason. I don't know if it's to do with the wheat, because I am all right with kind of crackers and other things containing gluten, but I don't know why it is, but it's just what I found works for me. I have to be careful with bread. If I have too much bread, obviously, because things like bread and pasta and carby things do tend to swell in the pouch. And for such a long time, I was terrified of carbs until my dietitian was like, no, you really need carbs. I'm kind of all right with most things. I don't think there's anything that I would say I can't eat, but I'm still, you know, cautious of, I don't want anything that's going to give me any dumping syndrome. I've been really lucky with dumping syndrome. I have to say I've only ever had it once, and it was actually the night I got engaged. typically, and we'd gone out for a family meal, and I just had a bit of kind of what everyone was having, you know, because we were just so wrapped up in the conversation. I wasn't really paying attention to what I was eating, and then I had a mouthful of champagne, and I think that's what tipped me over the edge. And I've never felt so poorly in my life. I mean, I can't now look at champagne. Obviously, this is something that I had to give up. You know, I used to, before my operation, I would drink minimum 8 cans of Pepsi Max a day. Minimum.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was like properly addicted. So, you know, those crates of 24, I'd get through 2 of those in a week. Easy peasy. So yeah, not having to give up fizz, that was a huge thing for me, but I just don't miss it anymore. Just doesn't, because it's just about changing your lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know about you. I mean, I changed a lot of things. I never used to have a hot drink, but now I have to start the day with a cup of tea. If I don't start with a cup of tea, I am not moving until I've got it. So I just think you just gain new habits, really, don't you? Like you say. Did you because we've got a question as well about, I mean, I can see your hair. I've seen it in person. I've seen it live, but you don't need to worry. Her hair's fantastic. But hair loss, any health side effects that have been adverse, maybe, or?
I did have hair loss. I think it started at around month 3, and I only really noticed it in the shower. And I did get a clump of hair, and then I kind of started to notice it more. And it probably lasted for about maybe 3 or 4 months, and my hair just got quite thin. I didn't really lose kind of any patches of hair. I was just losing a lot of hair. So any time I brushed my hair or had a shower, I just lost quite a lot of hair. And I did kind of go, oh, you know, I'm losing a lot of hair, you know, but ultimately I thought, I'm hoping it's only a temporary side effect, which it was. I just obviously made sure I was taking my vitamins, which are really important to take anyway. And then I started taking biotin supplements, which I don't take anymore, but that's an option. And then Olaplex, which is not cheap, but I found it really works.
But the treatment, it does. I've got to say, because I had that as well. And I do think it's 3 to 6 months. I don't know whether it's your body adjusting to the whole, you know, lack of nutrients that in the initial stages, and then it gets used to it, works around it. But yeah, I mean, I
feel like it's a small price to pay as well. Like ultimately, at the end of the day, I know, like, you know, hair and what have you. You know, I know that it is a point of confidence for a lot of people, but I just think it's only temporary. It won't last.
And the thing is, it's going to happen with age anyway. And as we were discussing before the call, I'm losing mine, and that is nothing to do with the art.
You've got a fine head of hair, mate.
I don't think I do anymore. It's definitely coming out. So we've got just a couple more questions about everything. One of them, I was going to touch on it before, but I just thought that we'd finish on it because it's one of the ones that gets asked all the time. It's about the liver reduction diet, and you know, how did you find it? I know. But I don't know about you. I just think you manage it because you know you have to.
Yeah, it's one of the. So I did the milk, and I mean I always loved milk until the liver diet. I think there's something about having 4 pints of milk a day for 2 weeks, and is it an OXO cube? I think you have as well.
Just for a bit of salt.
I remember on my birthday, because it was I could have the milk or the soup and yogurt. So for my birthday, as a birthday treat, I had soup and yogurt that day. It was very exciting, thrilling. I mean, I think the liver reduction diet really helped me change my mindset. Like, I had a huge Chinese, I mean, people say don't do the Last Supper. I did. I had a massive plate of Chinese.
I think everyone does.
Stuffed myself full, you know, guzzled Pepsi Max till the cows came home. And then I thought, right, I need to start this tomorrow. Like, it almost felt like I was starting a new chapter. And I think it is really good kind of mental preparation, as well as obviously the physical preparation. And I think, you know, when you realise why you do it, I think you just kind of have to do it. It's one of those things where, and you know, a lot of times I will see, oh, I have, you know, not followed my liver reduction diet. Like, is that okay? I mean, for me personally, I stuck to it like glue, because I thought that is what my surgeon told me to do. You know, I was really, really clear that I needed to follow it to the letter. Were there times where I was miserable? Absolutely. You know, family cooking bacon and me just upstairs miserable. You know, I went through my birthday and my whole family had a birthday buffet for me.
Yeah.
Milk, like, great, you know. But I think I knew that it was a kind of a short-term you know, sort of inconvenience, if you like, for the long term goal. It was that means to an end.
I get it. I mean, I don't think I've ever cried over somebody cooking an oat so simple in the microwave.
Oh my God, stop.
I was like, you know, golden syrup, oat so simple. I was like, please.
What liver reduction diet did you do?
So I had done a liver reduction diet twice. So I was previously booked in for surgery when I first went for it before COVID.
Yeah.
And it was 6 months before the pandemic. And this is one of my regrets. The next question for you is regrets. One of my regrets is dropping out of surgery. So I was meant to have surgery in the January. I got to my pre-op and just had a complete breakdown. I think because I had my initial surgery booked when I was very young. I was like 23. And I just thought, you know, I never ever considered my whole life as a whole. I'd only ever considered the next day or the next week. And when I was contemplating my whole life, I just thought, I'm never going to be able to get married and eat cake or do this or do that. And one thing, I just take some time away and think, you know, I'm not doing this because I want to eat cake. I'm doing it because I want a better life. So yeah, I went through the liver reduction diet twice. The first time I did the milk, and I think, you know, I managed it because I thought I'm going to have to do it. I can't have. So, and the second time I did soup and yogurt, I actually probably think from doing the soup and yogurt, I preferred the milk because I just think once you're on milk, you know you're having it. You've got your 4 pints. You've got it. Hungry. No, you're not hungry. It's all mental. It really is.
It really is.
And yeah, I just think for me, when I speak to people, the biggest thing about the milk diet, I always say, or the liver reduction diet, I should say, is it's for safety. Absolutely. You know, they're doing it for access and your liver shrinks and there's so many different reasons. Ask the surgeon the complexities behind it. They're doing it to be safe. Don't break it.
The first thing I asked my surgeon when I woke up, I said, did my liver shrink? He said, yeah, it was really good. You've obviously followed it. I mean, obviously it also has the added benefit of weight loss. I mean, I think I lost maybe 1.5 stones during those 2 weeks, which obviously, again, you know, makes it slightly safer to, you know, do the surgery. I think, you know, it's not like it was not my favorite couple of weeks in my life. It was necessary.
And you're definitely, you know, it doesn't matter where you're drinking, whether you're in the Ritz, whether you're in, you know, 20 stories in Manchester, you're still just drinking milk. So,
and you know what, I think it'd be interesting, like what you just said as well about, like, you know, never being able to eat cake again. You will eat cake again. You will eat what you want. You'll just eat smaller portions of it. And actually, I don't know about you, but I now find that I enjoy food more than I did before.
100%. And I just think it regulates you. I think you get to a point where, you know, you were doing things in excess. This is what brought you to the issues that you're in. You know, people, and I don't want to make it, this is my own personal view. I'm not making sweeping generalizations, but I really think that as larger people, we are very spoiled. We've never been without anything. We've never not had what we want. If we want something, we get it. And that's part of the reason that we are big, is because everything we want, we have. And I think it's really, really difficult to not have that almost like spoiled brat syndrome. And I'm talking probably...
No, I agree,
a more personal point of view. And I think it's really difficult to see it any other way because you're so stuck in your ways and that's it. I must have it now. I've got to have it. And I just think that completely changes. And I think the liver reduction diet for me is when I had that break. And it's like, okay, this isn't life. This isn't what it is. You know, I can enjoy everything, but I can't enjoy it to the way I'm doing it because it's not healthy. Even though I want to, I can't. And I just think I sort of went through adulting when I had my surgery because I just think I was a very wrapped up person in general. All my family surrounded themselves with me. I was the center of a lot of things with my family, which is great, but it always meant I had what I wanted. And I think for me, I don't know about you, but that is where that was one of my downfalls, the fact that I've always had what I wanted and that I haven't really listened to what I actually need. And the surgery gives you what you need. It gives you moderation. And you're always going to have what you want. Eventually you get to a point where you can have what you want. So for me, I can have whatever I want, input small portions. Christmas is coming up. Like everybody else, I am looking forward to my Christmas dinner. I am looking forward to my, you know, to the dessert afterwards. I'm looking forward to the Boxing Day buffet. But in a totally non-obsessive way that I was like I used to before.
Yeah, it's like you're not kind of thinking obsessively like all day, you know, oh, this is what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. Oh, what am I going to have now? What am I going to, you know, what am I going to have in 5 minutes? It's like, oh, I'm a little bit hungry. I should probably get something to eat.
Yeah.
It doesn't rule your life anymore. And it's a night, you know, it's like Christmas, it's lovely and you enjoy the food, but then it's like you move on. It doesn't become all encompassing.
Yeah, and you don't get to January and mourn the whole festive period because you just want to eat. You just think, okay, New Year, what we're looking forward to now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final question. I know we've touched on it before, but any regrets at all?
I had to think really long and hard about this question because my initial reaction would be absolutely no way. No, I actually really can't think of anything. I mean, people say, oh, do you wish you'd done it sooner? No, I also don't wish I'd done it sooner in that sense, because I think I had to get to that point where I was at. You know, I had to get to almost that breaking point. I'm not sure I would have been as successful as I have been without having kind of almost hit, I don't want to say rock bottom, you know, but it was that kind of moment of realization that I really needed to make that change. But no real regrets. I think just because it's, you know, obviously there are some days where you think, oh gosh, you know, what would I be doing in that situation? Or, you know, but I never really kind of dwell on the fact that I can't, for example, have a huge portion, because I feel completely satisfied with what I'm having, you know. So I never really feel like I'm missing out on anything, as you said, because we're now obviously we're a bit further out, you know. I think when you do get to the point where you can enjoy everything, like I've had about 3, you know, what was it, those little mini mince pies in the last couple of weeks. You know, I'm not going to beat myself up for that, and I've still lost weight because I'm still being kind of conscious of what I'm having, you know, but I'm also not obsessing about it. So no regrets.
Well, that is the perfect space to finish up then. I'm glad that, you know, I mean, you are doing amazingly well. I think I seen you in the summer, and I seen a picture the other day. I was like, oh my God. Wow. And I you know, the patient day was amazing. You can see all the footage from on our YouTube and different things like that. But, you know, I just want to really thank you for just taking part with us. Like, I appreciate you coming on. These conversations, I think, are really valuable for other people to watch. I didn't have it when I was looking. I don't probably think you had them when you. So I just thank you so much for sharing your journey and letting people know what it encompasses. So thank you so much. I'm just going to finish up by letting everybody know that In Conversation, our series of chats, continues next Thursday, where we are joined by surgeon Maxine Malhotra. He's going to discuss IACs, the initial consultations, surgeries and beyond. And if you found this useful, I'm really grateful that you have. But if you are thinking about surgery, I know we've answered some questions from a couple of viewers today. If you are thinking about surgery, the best way forward is a consultation. I'm sure Maisie will agree. It's completely free, and I don't know if your experience was, there's no obligation to move forward either. You know, it's completely free. It's an honest chat with a surgeon, and you're getting the best advice from the best people that you can. So if you are thinking about surgery, do get in touch with us, with our inquiries team. Fill out an online consultation form. We will walk you through. If it's not for you, no problem whatsoever. But if it is, you can be as successful as Maisie. And I think that wraps us up, Maisie. Thank you ever so much for joining. And have an amazing Christmas. And I will speak to you in the new year.
Yeah, lovely to speak to you all. Thanks.
Oh, thanks so much. Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.